The other two studies I wanted to talk about for us, we would have a discussion if we were in class. Again, break you up into groups of 3 and have each of you talk for a few minutes and then report back to the group, the class, what your thoughts are on. Imagine that you're in my class and you come in maybe a little bit late, everybody's already there, and we're doing a class exercise, and there's 3 lines on the board. Again, I'll have the PowerPoint. You can also see this online. Ash's study of conformity. And we're going around the room. I ask every student, you're last because you came in late and you're sitting in the back. You're going to be last to say. And I ask students to tell me, there's one line A, and there's 3 lines, 1, 2, 3, different lengths. And then there's one that obviously is the same length as A, and then the other 2 are like off. You can tell. I mean, anybody would be able to tell, so it's obvious. But everybody in the group says the wrong one. So as we go along, everybody says 1, 1, 1, 1. But obviously it's 2. You know it's 2. Like everybody you think should know it's 2. So you're thinking, what's going on? So what would you do in that situation? So we've done that experiment, Ash's study of conformity. He had a group of people volunteer and then they were all in on it, but one person was the one that was being studied. What happens when everybody says out loud? So we're doing it out loud. What do you think you would do in that situation? So I've actually done it in classes. I feel bad to do that to students because at the end we tell them, depending on what they did they conform? So I've had both. I've had some students who just go along with the group. They just say 1. Later, we ask them, why did you say 1? Did you think it was 1? And they're like, no, I could tell it was 2, but I didn't want to make a big deal. I just went along with the group. It doesn't really matter. And I thought, part of me thought, well, I can't be the only one in the class that thinks it's 1. It's 2, not 1. And so in that situation, they conformed. Maybe not important, maybe not to rock the boat, maybe not to make a big deal, maybe to not draw attention. There's many reasons why people conform, out of fear, out of obeying authority. And so we have social norm. We talked about social roles, social norms, the way that we're expected. Like we like that people stop at red lights. That's the norm in our society. But then there's how a student behaves, our roles, how a teacher behaves in the classroom. Like if I just start dancing, and I mean that's fine, but singing, it's like that's not the usual role of a teacher. Or if you're on your desk and screaming, like that's behaviors that usually tell us something's wrong. So social role is a socially defined pattern of behavior that is expected in a given setting. Social norms are group expectations regarding what appropriate and acceptable it is for members' attitudes and behavior. Different cultures, different roles, different norms for genders or for different professions or religions, depending on it. And so in Ash's study, what we found was that there are things that impact conformity. Do you conform or speak up and go against the group? So what we found was when the group majority is unanimous. So if everybody in the class, that's why it's so powerful, the power of 1. If one person in the group classroom, as we're going along, imagine there's 35 students and only one other student says 2. You're more likely to say what you think if there's one other person, just one other person that says 2. You're more likely to say what you really think and not conform to the group that you feel is wrong. And so also the size of the group. The bigger the group, the more you're starting to think, like, how can they all be wrong? Maybe I need glasses. Maybe I'm stressed. Like you start questioning your own sanity, your own perception, your own judgment. So that's why you have to be careful. Just because everybody's saying the same thing doesn't mean everybody thinks it's right. They might be conforming even though they know it's wrong. That's the power of the group. And so also if it's ambiguous, like you can't really tell, or if you think others are competent in the group, you're like, well, all the students, I know they're smart, they're in nursing school, they should know, or psychology class, I know them, they would know. How can I be the only one? So you start questioning, and then you say, well, they have to know, or authority. But this is key. If the answer is given publicly, That's why if you really want to know what people, really think, you need to ask them to write on a piece of paper. Let's say you have a question for your staff, other nurses, and you want to know what they really think. Don't ask everybody, do you think that we should extend the shift, or do you think we should do this? If it's a staffing issue or a clinic issue, just sometimes if everybody says yes, like I had students once, I asked, how do you feel about us switching, certain sections? And then everybody in the group in the class said, yes, I think that's fine with me. And then I thought, no, there must be somebody here who's just conforming, because everybody's saying that. And so I said, can you write on a piece of paper, yes or no? And you know what? Out loud, everybody said yes. On the piece of paper, especially if it's unanimous. We don't know who it is. People are more likely. That's why teacher reviews at the end of class, unanimous. You can say what you think. We don't know who it is, good or bad. And so we appreciate those, but you're able to say what you really think versus, did everybody like this teacher or this, whatever it is. People especially think about this at work. Like if you really want to know, anonymous, and not given publicly, because people are more likely to confirm if it's given publicly. So that's ASHA study. It's kind of funny to watch, like people looking at the line and looking at others. And then they've done other things. Again, if other people in the group rebel and say, nope, that's not right, then you're more likely to. And then the other part that I wanted to go over was, we talked about diffusion of responsibility, bystander effect, especially in an emergency. There's another one, cognitive dissonance theory. Cognitive dissonance theory, it's a highly motivating state in which people have conflicting cognitions, especially when their voluntary actions conflict with the attitudes or values of others. So there was an experiment, Fessinger, where they had, imagine it, again, you're part of the study where we tell you can get extra credit and you just have to do this task. And we tell you it's super fun, like really interesting, you'll love it. We're like, okay. You go in, it's like pretty much moving things from one basket to the other. Not fun. And then back and forth. You're like, this is kind of pointless, boring, not fun. And then at the end, we're going to pay some students like 1 point or 20 points or $1, $20. And then we ask you, okay, you can tell us the truth. What did you really think of that? And so, but before that we say, but wait, first, before you tell us, there's another student coming in to do this. Can you just tell them that it's really fun? We don't really know how you feel about it, but just so they do it, can you tell them it's fun? And so students go and tell them, yeah, that's a fun activity. Have fun, go. And then afterwards we say, well, okay, now you can tell us, what did you really think? And we know it's boring. So the students who got paid $1 or 1 point said, that was not fun at all. Why? And they don't lie, because it's not worth it. For $1, they feel like it doesn't make sense to say it's fun when it's not. And then we looked at other students who got paid $20, 20 points, for example, and they're like, you know what? It was kind of fun, because in their mind, they're thinking, they need to change their attitude about it in order to make sense of it. So cognitive dissonance is like tension, anxiety. Whenever you feel, so the $1 one saying it's not enough to convince myself that it's great. The $20 one, yeah, that was a fun activity. And so you need to, for example, if you're doing something that you feel it's not right, you know you should quit smoking and you're smoking, then it's easier for humans to change the way they think versus the way that they behave. And so sometimes we change our thinking about something that we're doing that we don't want to change, or we feel we can't, in order to not feel bad about ourselves. So the cognitive dissonance exercise is really so students don't feel bad about themselves. So they change how they think. Yeah, it was fun when it wasn't. So they don't feel bad about lying about it. And so let's say you should quit smoking. And then you think, maybe it's not so bad. My grandmother lived to be 80. So instead of changing the behavior, which is harder, you change the way you think about it. The other one is, other examples, it can be denial, part of it drinking, if they have a drinking issue or cheating. And you think, my spouse is not so good. It's rationalizing, one of the defense mechanisms from Freud, rationalizing. But cognitive any time that what you believe and what you do is not in alignment, it's easier for people to change what they believe than what they do. So you're like, no, well, it's okay to cheat in these situations, or whatever it is, in order to reduce the cognitive dissonance. And so the other experiment I wanted to talk about is the Stanford Prison Experiment. And I'll put a link also in case you're interested, for you to watch on the Stanford Prison Experiment. They've done movies about it, the experiment, and one reality-based. And so imagine that you're at Stanford and you are asked to, if you want to, be part of a study. So they ask for volunteers in the school for the summertime. Dr. Zimbardo, which I've met, he went to University of Hawaii a few times.